Welcome back to the GHT Overland Podcast, where we visit with overland travelers around the globe, learning from their experiences, passing on their tips, and enjoying their stories. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lisa. We are from a little city called Washougal in Washington State, known as the entrance to the Columbia River Gorge. This is part 2 of our interview with David and Raquel with Lost for Days, all the way from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Let's pick up where we left off, learning about their biggest challenge, overlanding.
This one's a seat clincher.
And we weren't too concerned at first because we assumed we're going to get out of this. It's going to be fine. The next day we tried to get out, and we've tried everything. We've brought cactus from the nearby island. We've stuck rocks under the car. We've done the high lift, packed salt in the mud, and nothing's working. And we start getting concerned that we might not be able to get out. And we have enough food and water for maybe 3 days. But there's no cell service or anything. So
nobody is driving by. Yeah.
We decide to walk in the direction of which we saw lights the night before. And we assume that it's about a 5-mile walk. But it's hard to tell because our GPS doesn't have any nearby islands on the map. Neither do the paper maps. And everything has a mirage effect because it's just white for miles. And so we start walking and walking and walking. And it's definitely been more than 5 miles. And it's now late in the afternoon, and we're not sure if we're going to make it to the island. And that, I think, was the worst part for me because I was thinking, okay, because we're getting low on water, what if we have to sleep outside tonight? It gets really cold at night.
We're looking for caves to maybe we can call this home for the night. So it was like we ended up walking 7 hours across just terrible terrain, just flat, hot sun, salt flats, and walking. Then parts of the salt flats were still flooded, so we ended up walking the last 2 hours through a foot deep of salt water to find somebody that could finally get some wood to help us get out of the mud. And it wasn't even difficult terrain in the sense that it was hills. It was all flat. It was just the exposure was pretty rough. Yeah, the exposure was rough. It was beating down on the white, and then that was shining up at our face. And after the fact, we had blisters and stuff that from the sun. But it was kind of scary because we didn't know if we were going to find people, and it was getting close to sunset, and we were finally getting close to the island. And David has much better eyes than I do. And he was like, I see a village.
Oh, and I was relief.
I'm going to cry. Yeah. I was like, you do? Are you sure?
We still had 3 hours to walk from that point, though. So
yeah, it took forever.
Yeah, but you have some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was
How did you get out?
Well, we found a guy. So it was towards the end of our Bolivia trip, so we didn't have a lot of cash on us because, we didn't want to lose money in the exchange. So we didn't re-up in the new uni. We just kind of left, had what we had. We get to this place, and the guy says, yeah, I'll help you. We have to drive out there, but it's going to cost you $300 US. And I had $60 US. And I'm like, dude, that's not going to happen, man. We have nothing.
We said if we had it, we'd give it to you. Yeah. We were so desperate, and he said, well, then what's your plan?
You're my plan.
We were like, oh my gosh, making it to this island was
the plan.
The plan. And we felt like we made it,
And so then I asked him, dude, anything, we have stuff in the car. Are you looking for, and he's like, well, do you have a tablet? And we have a tablet that we use for navigation. And I said, yes, I have a tablet. He's like, I'll take that. My daughter's looking for one, and it's hard to find out here in Bolivia. I'm like, done. So it was a Samsung Galaxy, whatever tab.
But the next morning he took us to the car by striking a deal with this tour company.
Yeah.
And we practically hitchhiked with these tourists.
These tourists, and threw all the wood and lumber that we needed to get out on top of the car. And then in between their tour, they drove us to our island, which was like 20 minutes out of the way, dumped us all off with the wood, and then took off. And good luck, you know. So then like 5 hours later, after like doing the whole high lifting it up, putting salt under, and then putting the wood under, we finally got out, and it was the best feeling I've ever had in my entire life.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Do you guys use like a Max Track or anything like that, or would you in the future?
We will in the future.
No, we were posting all of our, like, all this information, just like the story of what happened on our Instagram. And like 3 companies reached out to us and said, hey, we want to hook you up with, you know, our product, because I think it would really help. So yeah, Dead Man Off-Road, they gave us a whole package of recovery gear, which is really nice. So
It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. So that was the picture that I saw where the vehicle is stuck in the sand, and I believe David is laying with all 4 stretched in every direction.
Yeah, that was after like 6 hours of like kind of coming to terms of realizing like this is going to be a lot harder than we were thinking.
We need help.
It's not just a quick little lift up the car, put some stuff under, and then drive away. Because it was like clay mud. It was very brutal stuff.
And we had already tried, like a lot of people.
But yes, it was that picture.
And I'll say it now because a lot of people say, well, why don't you bury your spare tire and use your winch to pull yourself out?
Yeah.
And we did it textbook style.
Twice.
And it just came out like Jell-O.
I dug like a 4 or 5 foot deep hole, put the tire in there, got the winch all hooked up. Nothing worked.
So
yeah, because it depends on what, I guess, the surface.
Right. It was like Jell-O. Yeah, you would just pull it right out.
So was the sand already wet, or had it like come up from underneath? How does that?
No, it was like, so the salt flats, for the most part, were like rock hard and easy and fun to drive on. But then when you get closer to the islands, it's kind of like a dip. And so then all the moisture kind of like pools around it. But on the surface, it still looks like every other place you've been. So what happened is, like the salt was maybe like
2 inches thick.
Yeah, like 2 inches thick. And our front tires broke through that part. And then our back tires, being much heavier, just dug right in. And
what's underneath of it is clay,
mud, and water. We had no time to like react or like slow down and stop and like reverse or whatever. It was like, oh, this is fun, cool driving, and then, oh, this feels weird, and now we're stuck. So,
well, I'm glad you got through it. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. So tell us about your process for planning each trip, or I don't know if that's like per day or per week. What is it that you go through? You mentioned you had tablets. I don't know if you were able to get a new tablet, but...
Well, we had a tablet.
So that planning process, where you're going to go, and how do you know where you're at?
So before the trip, we put a bunch of point of interests on Google Maps. So we knew we wanted to get to these destinations along the way. Mm-hmm. What happened in between the points was more spontaneous. Mm-hmm. So we would arrive, for example, in Mexico City, and we knew after that we'd be going to Oaxaca. And it wasn't a strict timeline. So we'd stay another day in Mexico City if we wanted to, or we would move on if we were ready to leave. Mm-hmm. And getting from point A to point B, we use Maps.me. And finding places to stay along the way, we just use iOverlander to find a campground to camp at, or we'll find a free spot to camp. And then if we find a really good review on a campground, then we'll push on to make it to that place. But in general, the only things that are set in, and those aren't even really set in stone, but the things that we aim for are the points of interest that we know we want to see.
Yeah, so we'll find a country, find like 6 to a dozen like awesome spots that we want to go to, and then we just kind of fill in the gaps between those spots as we see fit.
Just fun because it allows for more opportunities.
Spontaneity too, yeah.
It's the kind of travel that vacations for 2 weeks doesn't really allow you.
Yeah.
Okay, so iOverlander and Maps.me. Any other software that you use, and do you carry paper maps with you as well?
Yes.
We do carry paper maps. We don't need to use them very much. There's been one time we needed to use them because we didn't download
the offline map for Maps.me. Yeah. We also have a Garmin InReach that's more of like an SOS thing as opposed to an actual like navigation source. But I sometimes use it. I use it to like check elevation and like compass headings, but I don't really use it for navigation purposes. That's more so like on the tablet.
Sometimes we use Google Maps to find things that are in the area, like a laundromat or...
But I am fairly convinced Google Maps actively tries to kill us every time we use it. So.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Yeah, we almost
sometimes they're spot on accurate and sometimes they are not.
Yes.
So border crossings, any border crossings that stand out to you, and any tips you would have for our listeners in preparing for them and getting through them?
Not really. Well, so not really that stand out. There's been a couple where we had some problems. Most of our border crossings were pretty smooth. But the tips that I would say is you always want to start your so we call them border days. And so like you always want to start your border day very, very early because who knows what is going to happen. And the last thing you want to do is be stuck at a border overnight, because border towns are usually
a little sketchy,
notorious for like being sketchy. It's just where a lot of people congregate. People are trying to smuggle stuff across the border. So like you don't get the nicest people there. People are always busy. So you want to get in and out of the borders as fast as possible.
So tips would be to start early.
Way early, yeah. Like whenever it opens, you'd be the first person in line.
Yep. And then I think if you are doing the Pan Am, if you are going into Nicaragua, do a little research first, because sometimes they require that you show them your bank statements and a few things that you don't really expect to need at a border crossing. They didn't ask it from us, but they did from some of our friends, and we were ready in case.
Yeah, carry tons of copies.
Carry a lot of copies of your passport, driver's license,
title, registration,
of
everything.
your car.
Yeah.
And people said have about 10, and we've probably needed 30. So you can get them copied at the borders, but it's just nice to have them in case, so you don't have to do the runaround.
Right.
And then the other one is if you're going in between Colombia and Ecuador, the main border crossing, because of the situation in Venezuela, is overwhelmed. So it's better to go through the southern border, which is so fast.
Yeah, but all that changes.
It does, but if people are going like in the next year or so.
Yeah.
And they could probably look that up on iOverlander and get the most updated information.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, which is nice too, because it outlines what to do at each border on iOverlander.
Usually, yeah. But even that, it's so weird. It's because, we come from, the United States, where it's going to be a pretty much tried and true practice of, this is what they're going to ask, this is what you're going to do. And that's pretty accurate. Here, this is what they're going to do, and then you show up and they just wave you through sometimes. You don't even, sometimes they'll is this your car? Yeah, they'll lean their head out the window, look at it, and then check you off. Sometimes they'll make you go through this place and they inspect everything. And so there is really no
set
rules. It's kind of whoever is doing the inspection or at the aduana, it's up to them what they want to do with you.
But I don't think it's something to be too worried
about. No. It's just that's why you want to start early, because you never know what they do. Sometimes we started early and we got through it we got there at 8 and we got through at 8:25. And then other times we got there at 8 and we didn't get out until 4 p.m. or something, it really depends.
Okay. Any specific safety planning that you do on your trip to make sure that that you feel comfortable either where you're staying or at a border crossing?
Our golden rule has always been never drive at night. We've had to break that a couple times, but generally that was our biggest practice.
I also think it's a good idea to try to find a campground or somewhere that you feel comfortable camping a couple hours before it gets dark, because then you start to get a little anxiety when it's already dark and you don't know where you're camping.
And then have a backup too.
So it's I think I mean, when you ask the question, it sort of instinctively makes me think of like getting robbed or attacked or something like that. But our biggest safety thing here has just been the roads, because a lot of them are very narrow. There's only one lane. Cars pass each other around corners. So I think just not driving at night and being a very defensive driver.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
We know you guys are headed home for a duration of work, but is there additional income when you're currently on the road?
So what I do, I'm able to work from the road. So, that all we had to do is like maybe every other week or every 3 weeks or so. We have to find a place I can hunker down for like a couple of days with some good internet and get some stuff done. But that really it hasn't really been a problem. Like we haven't had any trouble finding.
I don't think it impacts the trip as much as it might for some people that need it every day.
I think
because we can go a few days without internet.
Right. If I had to work every week, like had to sign in and like do a conference call or something every week, I think that would change a lot of how we did the trip. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if we'd be able to do it really.
Yeah. But you can look ahead at some places and see, oh, this place has Wi-Fi.
Well, they say they have Wi-Fi, yeah.
Right. Or you can try to get into an Airbnb for that time. Mm-hmm. I think it would probably also depend on someone's budget.
Yeah.
But it's not terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything more that you want to add regarding navigation and communication, like GPS that you use? Obviously, Google Maps is a 50-50 guess. Anything else that you use or would recommend to our listeners, both not only just for navigation, but communication as well? Are you just using a cell phone? Do you have a VHF radio?
Yeah, so we have a CB radio that we use sometimes with other overlanders.
When we're caravanning
together. My biggest tip would be ask the locals. Like whenever you show up into a village or a town or whatever, you just talk to people, ask them, hey, so how's this road? Where should we go? Should we take this one? Because they're the ones that are going to know, like, no, this road just got taken over by, some toll group or whatever. So don't go that way. Or this road just had a mudslide, so you don't want to do that one or something, save you hours of traffic. So that's the best tip I could give.
I also think it's nice that we have our Garmin inReach, because even like being in the salt flats and feeling vulnerable, it was nice knowing that we could push the emergency button if we needed to, and they would organize some kind of rescue. And then
we assume.
And we hope. And then we can also send a GPS location to our parents so that when we're out of cell service, we can at least send messages to people, kind of like a text.
Give them like our last known like location or something,
So it's a good peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yep, we're big fans of the Garmin inReach. I use one when I go, I do a lot of search and rescue work, so we use that. But if I go on a hiking trip for a couple weeks, every night I check in with Lisa just so she knows where I'm at and everything's good to go.
Nice.
Yeah, it also helps your family too, like just kind of give them peace of mind, like, oh, okay, they're cool.
Yeah, like if you're going to be out of service for a week.
Yep, that's like 90% of it so that they're not worried.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, vehicle maintenance and repair. What was your pre-trip planning process so that you were confident once you left, you put a new engine in it? Anything else you did that you felt very confident in the vehicle that it wasn't going to give you any trouble once you left?
Yeah, we put the new engine in. We sent the transmission off to a guy to have it inspected. He changed a couple gears and then refilled it with some transmission fluid. And then we changed a lot of the parts that would be very hard to get to if they broke, like that are like up inside or behind the engine. So like a new starter, a new water pump, new radiator. Because it was an older car, so a lot of the parts were still original manufactured parts, So we changed a lot of that stuff. On the trip, we ended up having to change our brakes our brake pads like 3 or 4 times just because we're so heavy and the mountain roads are so like steep and then like windy. So we went through like 3 sets of brake pads.
The fuel pump broke.
The fuel pump broke in Mendoza, which was just recently.
And then the alternator just broke.
And now the alternator is now not working. But I attribute that to the salt flats. So
yeah, that could be. Are those things that you had replaced before you left?
No, those are all original parts again. So that's like
okay.
that it makes sense to me. Like I'm not too upset about it because it makes sense.
I feel like almost everyone we've met has had something break along the way, and I think it just comes with the territory. You can't prepare for everything. You do the best you can, and then have some money set aside for repairs if you're going to need them. But I think preparing for the trip, maybe just replace the things that your car is expected to have break. Look at the mileage that your car has.
We'll also do some research and like figure out because every car has like their problem parts, like at this many miles, this usually fails. And so, I mean, do it while you're in your own hometown, like where all the places are to get parts, and then it's easier to do it before you have to do it like on the side of the road in Guatemala somewhere,
Okay. And do you have a preventative maintenance schedule that you follow on the road as you're traveling?
Yeah, like so what I'll do is like usually almost I'm pretty good about it. Like usually every day before we go, like I'll start the engine up, warm it up, and then I'll look under the hood really quick and just check all the fluids, just make sure, because if there's a problem, I want to know about it before it becomes a really big problem. Like we knew our alternator was failing before the battery even died, like because I could tell we have a voltmeter on our dash, and so I could tell that the batteries weren't being charged. So I was able to do some things and make some things so we could make it to the next town and get our batteries charged and then make it to the next place again.
And then we also pay attention to our brakes because we know that that's an issue for us. The brake pad's wearing thin, faster than what's expected. So once we start hearing something, we okay, put down the windows. We're going to listen to it. And we're like, oh, yep, I think it's time. And so we inspect the brakes and we get them changed as quickly as possible.
Because the brake pads are cheaper than new discs and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're super. Are you able to get those locally wherever you happen to be?
Actually.
Yeah, and that's another reason why we chose the Toyota Landcruiser, like the platform we did. Just any Toyota. There's parts that, like you went through, like going through Bolivia, everybody has a Landcruiser. Like it's just nothing but Landcruisers.
Yeah. We felt so popular with our Landcruiser.
We were like part of
the club. Part of the club.
Yeah. You were hip.
Yeah.
But, and then even just going further south and even in Mexico, it's just like, the global distribution of Toyota parts is so massive that you'll find something that will work.
Okay. And do you guys carry one spare tire or two?
One.
We have one, yeah.
Do you have a tire repair kit?
Yes, we do have a tire repair kit, yeah.
We haven't had to use it.
Yeah.
But it's nice having it.
And do you have a compressor as well?
Yes.
Yes, we do. It's under the hood.
Okay. Let's go through some onboard necessities. We talked a little bit about fuel, but how much fuel can you carry? How far does that take you? And how do you calculate your fuel needs?
We can carry 65 gallons of gas.
Which I think is like 260 liters.
And
something like that.
Okay.
Because of the ox tank, we start looking for a gas station once the ox tank is empty and we only have the main tank, which can hold about 35 gallons.
25 gallons.
25 gallons?
Yeah.
And once our ox tank and our main tank is completely full, we can drive about 700 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you managing water use and purification for water?
So we have about 15 gallons of water that are in these like separate water jugs. And then we have a not fuel pump, but a water pump that we just screw into each jug. So as one jug gets emptied, we just put the water pump from that, put it into the next one, and then carry on. But we also have probably an overkill filtration system. We have a 5 micron filter that then gets pumped into a 0.5 micron filter. Then that's what we drink out of the 0.5 micron filter. Takes care of like
I think it takes care of
Giardia
everything up to it just can't filter out viruses, but those aren't usually a common concern.
It's mostly the bacteria that we wanted to get out of the water.
And parasites.
Yeah. So it'll do that, and then
I'd say the water lasts us for
a pretty good time.
Yeah, probably like maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we fill them up at campgrounds.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we've maybe only run out of water a couple times, and even then you can go buy a jug of water if you need it.
We went through a lot of water in Central America, but we were also like rinsing off a lot from the shower, from the ocean, and all that stuff.
And do you guys use solar, or what is your electrical setup with batteries on your vehicle?
So the electric setup is pretty sweet, unless your alternator fails. So we have two 100 watt panels on top of the car that they can pull out, and like I can actually disconnect them from the car and pull them out and then put them anywhere I want to, and then with an extension cable. So like if we're somewhere for a long period of time, we can set up and get really good solar energy from that. Those solar panels are connected directly to our second battery, which is like the house battery. And that house battery is then connected to a battery isolator, which both batteries are connected to. So the theory behind it is the isolator is kind of like a diode. So you can charge. So whenever one battery is getting charged, both batteries will be getting charged off of that, but it will only discharge one battery at a time. So if, like for the alternator problem that we had, the car battery died, so I switched the battery. We have a switch on our dash that I can switch and choose which battery I start the car off of. And then once the car started, the alternator then is supposed to charge both batteries. So both batteries stay topped off, either through the alternator or the solar panels. But only one gets discharged at any given time.
Okay. And you're pretty happy with that setup?
Yeah, it's been working pretty nicely so far. And they're all fused off and protected and stuff. So,
well, it's super smart the way you set that up so that you can move the solar panels separate so you can actually park in the shade.
Exactly. Yeah. That was what we were thinking about. That, like, well, what if we want to park under a tree? I'm like, well, that's not going to help us.
Yeah, we don't want to be parked right in the sun. So anything that you're using for your rooftop tent on heat in the colder areas that you go?
No, we have some friends that have insulation that they added to their tent. And that would have been really nice to have, I think, in Patagonia. But we are purposefully avoiding the really cold months because we only have the tent.
Okay.
We do have the hot water bottle things. Like you fill up with water.
Yeah.
Hot water.
Like the things you see in cartoons where like they put up the hot water and the bladders. I don't know what they're called.
You guys know what we're talking about, right?
Yep. Have you tried a mattress pad, a heating mattress pad that's 12 volts?
Oh my gosh, that would be so nice.
That would be amazing. And we also heard about, like, you know, you can get like electric blankets and stuff, like 12-volt electric blankets. Oh. But no, we don't have any of those things.
Next time. Oh my gosh, that's a great idea.
We'll plug our show notes a little bit. So we just talked to Overland the Americas, and that's what they use. There's a link, or you guys can just reach out to them directly and they'll tell you what it is. But they were really happy with that.
I bet. That would be nice.
You know what we did have these 12-volt fans, but we never used them.
I think also because we didn't have the electrical set up very well to the tent, because we were only getting half the power. Something was wrong.
Yeah. But I don't know if we ever would have really used them anyways, because they were kind of big and... Yeah,
they're pretty bulky.
All right, cool. Anything that we've missed?
I don't think so.
I think it's like overlanding. Like, one thing that I kind of realized I didn't know about this trip was how much I prefer this kind of travel rather than just vacationing. Now, don't get me wrong, I think vacationing is awesome. Like, there's a place for it. Sometimes you just want to go somewhere, relax, enjoy like the highlights, and then be pampered for a little bit and then go back home to like keep working and stuff. But I would kind of separate those two as like vacationing versus traveling. And I didn't know how much I would love this. And like after the first 3 months, I realized that we wanted to do this probably for the rest of our life. So we're probably, much shorter trips. We probably won't do another 8-month one because that's
a long time for us.
That's a very long time. But like probably like 3 months, leave our car in some country, fly back home, work, do the family life thing and like, the regular life, and then fly back overland for another 3 months and then keep flying back and forth like that.
Yeah, sounds like a nice mix. Any philanthropy or giving back to inspire others that you guys focus on during your trips, or any opportunities that you've seen for other overlanders to do some good in the world?
Trash. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it, isn't there?
There is. I don't think I've cared so much about the environment or trash as I did until after I've done this trip. And I think a big part of it is awareness. And so maybe this month especially, I've taken an interest in following a lot of people and organizations and seeing how they're making better choices and helping the environment, and trying to personally see how I can do that. I'm not sure yet how we're going to make a big change personally as far as like influencing other people, but I think right now the first step is just joining maybe like beach cleanups when we get home or something like that.
Something cool that like some overlanders could do too is like just like there's always kids that run up to your car and like ask for stuff. So instead of like giving them money or like candy, like what they want, you can give them like carry like a little toothbrushes and some toothpaste or something, or like, I don't know, something for hygiene, and give them those things instead of money or candy. I don't know. You can probably give them something else. But.
Yeah, I like it. That's really good.
So let's wrap it up with some fun facts about you guys.
Ooh.
Any hobbies or things you do on the road other than driving and relaxing?
I read my Kindle a lot.
Yeah.
Which isn't like action-packed at all.
We brought a ukulele and a harmonica, so that's fun. We've been trying to get better at those as we've been traveling. Oh yeah, I love bugs, so like I try and collect some insects along the way for like an insect collection.
We go hiking, that kind of stuff. We listen to podcasts in the car.
Awesome, that's very good.
Like ours?
Yes.
Free diving and stuff when we're in the ocean, like love free diving. Yeah, honestly, we're just open for anything. So like any new experience that like somebody brings our way, we're totally down. So that was kind of my whole thing with the trip. Is I just wanted to get really into the culture and the whole idea of the whole being in different countries,
Yeah.
So the harmonica and ukulele, is that done just by David, or both of you joined in that on your campfire nights?
Raquel's pretty good at the ukulele. She's getting better. She's shaking her head right now.
I'm not good at it, but I am trying to learn. So when I have internet, I'll go on YouTube and watch like how to play like different songs
or something. Yeah.
And so then I'll play the song, and then when we're at a campfire, I'll practice it. Mm-hmm. Not so confident with other people, but.
We have to be free camping like miles away from civilization before she takes it out.
And then David does the harmonica.
Yeah.
Cool. And what is your favorite drink in the morning to get you guys going?
Whiskey.
What? No. For me, it's coffee.
Coffee, and then like throughout the day, now like we're really enjoying mate. We're actually having a mate right now. But
what's mate?
Mate is like it's like a green tea type of taste,
okay.
Right?
Yeah, it's leaves from the yerba mate tree, and they're dried and crushed, and then you can buy them in the grocery store in a bag, and so kind of like coffee grounds, how you would pour into your coffee maker. You kind of just pour the loose leaf into a cup, and then you have a straw.
Put hot water over it and drink it.
And then you drink it.
Yeah. It's like 0 calories, really high in caffeine.
Yeah,
has a very unique taste that takes some getting
It is
used
high
to.
in caffeine. Yesterday I had too much.
You got your laundry done, didn't you?
Got a lot of stuff done.
Okay. Any favorite beverage at night to wind down after a long day on the road?
Yeah, I'm a Scotch guy. Like, I really enjoy a Scotch, but it's so hard to find out here. So like, it's cool because every country has like their own version of like their liquor that they make. So like in Mexico, it was obviously tequila, and then mezcal as we got further south, and then so like those are fun. And then we'll usually get a bottle of whatever the local liquor is and just kind of sip on that. So
In Argentina, it's wine.
it's wine, so a bottle of wine a day, pretty much.
That's the motto
That's
here.
the motto here in
And we've
Argentina.
almost been living up to that.
Nice.
So what is your best advice to aspiring overlanders like us?
Oh man, you got to do it. Like even if you just start small, like I can't believe we thought we weren't going to be doing it, because it really opens up your perspective on how the world, like the rest of the world, works.
Yeah, and I feel like I've learned a lot about the world, a lot
Yeah.
about myself, a lot about traveling in general, a lot about David.
And
I
don't
feel
listen.
like I've done a lot of growing in the last year.
And try not to listen to people who have opinions that haven't done it, because
They can be discouraging.
they can be very discouraging. It's like when we started, all of our friends and family are like, "Oh, you're gonna die. You're gonna get murdered in Mexico."
They're like kind of joking, but sort of serious.
yeah.
And that is exactly why we do this podcast, so that we can bring it to people from people like you that are actually out doing it and can give them the 100%. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
It's
yeah.
awesome. You guys will, anyone who does it, I think is going to be so glad that they did.
I mean, that's not saying that, the world is a fuzzy, bright, sunshine, rainbow place all the time. But as long as you keep a good head about you and you're just smart with your decisions, you're going to have an amazing time that is not going to be on like anything else you've done.
And another thing of advice I think would be to keep it simple.
Yes.
And pack light. And when you're choosing your vehicle, really consider the mile per gallon, because if budget is something that you're concerned about on the trip, that's going to severely impact your budget, is the gas.
Oh, and choosing a vehicle too, I'm also going to say 4-wheel drive. It's not, I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary, but it's necessary, if you know what I mean.
If you plan on going to like remote areas.
Yeah.
And then really consider if you want a live-in space or not.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. How can people learn more about you and what you guys are doing?
Well, we started a blog. It's lostfordays.com. And we've also created an Instagram account and Facebook that's called Lost for Days. So if you want...
Yeah, you can just go on
updates.
Facebook and search Lost for Days and we should pop up.
And then I made a list of things that I was looking up before the trip that was interesting to me, like crossing the borders, or the budget and where does the money go, and safety, and things that I thought were interesting and I wanted to know more about and I couldn't find. So I've been making blog posts about all of those things and putting them up on our website.
Spoiler alert, if you want to know where the money goes, it is right into the gas tank.
So getting a vehicle that has really good gas mileage is really important. And one of the other things that we've heard is just slow down.
Yes.
If you can afford it with the time that you have, then the longer you stay put, the cheaper your week will be.
And also the more immersed you can get, which is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, into the culture, right?
Yeah. Say yes to if a local invites you to like a party or a hangout. If it feels safe and all right, say yes to those experiences, because those are some of the best experiences we've had. Beach parties with some families, birthday parties.
Last weekend, that was
spontaneous salsa dances on palapas. Yeah, it's really great.
Any more information you'd like to give, or useful resources that people should check out?
Yeah, I used IHateMud.com a lot for information, especially with the Toyota platforms. They just have amazing amounts of information, and if something broke, there's like 1,000 threads of people who had the same problem and like all the fixes they did for it.
Okay.
It's really helpful for when you're building out your rig too.
Yeah. And carry the manuals of your rig, like the engine manuals and all that kind of stuff.
I also think on your phone you should have an app for a currency converter, because if you're only staying in a country for maybe a few weeks or a month at a time, it's easy to kind of lose track. Like if you're only in one country, you probably don't need a currency converter, but if you're going to a bunch of countries just to keep track of everything, it's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, hey guys, thank you so much for your time. We are humbled that you've given us such an amazing look into your world and experiences and knowledge. So, safe travels and adventures to you. And we hope we can catch up with you again sometime soon and maybe run across you in the road sometime. Well, not physically run across you, but...
Yeah. We try to avoid that as much as possible. So.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. This was fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been great. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raquel and David, for taking your time to connect with us and for sharing your experiences, tips, and stories with everyone.
We really enjoyed talking with you.
They really were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Super cool couple. I'm still so relieved they finally escaped the salt flats. I think that took me like a week to get over. And then some of the other things that we learned that were really good for other people. One, their most valuable tool or piece of gear was unquestionably the extra 40-gallon tank they installed on Whistle. So they had a total of, I think it was 60 gallons. Being prepared for border crossings with lots of copies of all your paperwork. Knowing in advance if you're going to need copies of bank statements. Making it across with my peanut butter will be mission critical.
Absolutely. We've got to have our peanut butter.
Well, if they're going to charge you for $10 for a little thing of peanut butter on the other side.
Well, yeah, we could save $2 and just buy a case.
I bet they take it and they repackage it and sell it for $10.
Oh, I bet they do. Be sure to also watch Raquel and David's YouTube videos and subscribe to their social media sites at Lost for Days with 3 S's. They really do a great job.
Yeah, their videos are really cool. They're great at storytelling as well.
It's a good idea to visit the show notes page on our website at ghteoverland.com. Click on podcasts, then select the Lost for Days episode. All of the details and helpful links for this episode are already there for you.
Be sure to send your questions, suggestions, and any other feedback to ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com. If you have an Amazon Echo, be sure to tell Alexa, play the GHT Overland podcast. You can also add the GHT Overland skill to your news briefings.
You know what would be really delicious?
Berry cobbler.
Well, true, but I want more than just cobbler. If you have the perfect Overlander recipe, something quick, easy, and delicious, or something that you think is worth any extra effort for special meals on the road, send them to ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com. Include your information, the name of the recipe, and a picture. If I can make it, and Chris likes it, I will personally make sure you and your recipe are highlighted on our website for other Overlanders to enjoy.
Does this mean we have to start exercising again?
Well, you do.
Oh, thanks. I thought we did everything together.
Oh, we do. I'll watch and you exercise.
Okay, deal. We'll see how this works.
Now, before you race off, it would mean the world to us, and I mean the entire Overlanding globe, if you'd share the podcast, subscribe, rate, and review us. Give GHT Overland some love so we can reach as many Overlanders as possible, passing on priceless experience, knowledge, and stories of Overlanders doing good in the world. Thank you, and we will see you next Thursday over on part 2. What are you waiting for? Go give us some podcast love with a subscribe, rate, and review. Bye.